Now we're going live. Okay, here's the intro.
Hi, I'm Shadow Stevens. You're listening to Jimmy the Real Deal. One of a kind and one in a million. Say it with me. One of a kind and one in a million. Thank you.
Well, everybody, welcome. Tonight, of course, I'm Doc G, and I've got a special guest for you tonight on the Jimmy Deal Show. We have the incredible actor, voiceover guy, everything. Eddie Munster, Butch Patrick. Welcome to the Jimmy Deal Show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Welcome to the show, Butch. So great to have you and honored to see you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. And I always enjoy doing these for the fans and hopefully a lot of people that come out to New Jersey this weekend, as I will be visiting.
Absolutely. I wanted to talk about that right at the top of the show. Everyone is looking forward to seeing you. You're going to be out this weekend at Pandora's Box Toys and Collectibles, 191 Route 15 in Lafayette, New Jersey. And that is in beautiful Sussex County. And you are live in store 11 to 2 on Sunday the 13th with lots of pictures, cool stuff. And people can take pictures with you and get to meet you. So excited about that. You excited about coming to town?
Absolutely. I love going. I'm actually a member of Dead Man's Curve Car Club, which is in New Jersey. We do the Labor Day show every year at the Mawa Sheraton. We get thousands of cars now. And so, yeah, Jersey's always been a really good place for me to visit. A lot of friends there.
Yes, and absolutely. You're gonna, and on Friday and Saturday, you're going to be at the Dream Mall in Rutherford, New Jersey. Friday, right from 4 till 9, and Saturday from 2 till 6. And you have the Munster coach with you. Tell us about that.
No. I have the number one Dragula, the original real deal Dragula.
Awesome, so awesome. Now you own both of those cars, right?
I have my own cars, but the one that's going to be there with me is owned by my club brother, John Spergato, who's got TV Show Cars Museum and a collection. He's also got the number 3 coach. My particular cars are not Barris built.
Oh, okay. Well, now you got to work with George Barris. I mean, and I know you're a real gearhead, so that must have been a great thing for you to hang out with George Barris and see all those cars. I know you were just recently there because I just saw a video of you on Facebook at the museum.
Yeah, George, the connection that I had, one of the things the Munsters allowed me to do, and it was a lot, but probably one of the best things that came out of the Munsters was my relationship and friendship with the Barris family, starting with George and Joji and Jared, his grandson, and Joji's his daughter. So anyway, can you imagine how lucky I was and how exciting it was to be, basically 11, 12-year-old kid who is the perfect age for building models to begin with, and being in slot cars and go-karts and mini bikes and all of that great stuff growing up in the 60s. And I was born in 53, so when I was in the 60s, I was like between 7 and 17. Wonderful window of life. But George, I would be sitting in the Munster coach on TV, and then I would be able to go down to the shop where he built it and see the other creations that he was doing. And he did a lot. I mean, he was like the Mr. Go-To guy in Hollywood, not only for personal private cars, but for TV and movie cars as well. And it wasn't unusual to see Sinatra or Elvis or Sonny and Cher or anybody who's who in Hollywood had to have a George Barris custom for their private use, in addition to the TV cars that he built.
Wow, like the Batmobile.
Like the Batmobile, like the General Lee, like the DeLorean, like, oh my gosh, the list goes on. The Kit Knight Rider, almost every car in Hollywood that came through. And the people that didn't build them at George's shop worked for George's at some time in their life. And then they went on to do their own thing, like Dean Jeffries with the Monkey Mobile.
Wow. Now, you were born in California, right? You started your career at the very early age of 7 years old, right? Tell us about how that started for you.
I was born in a little town called Inglewood, 1953, August 2nd. When I was in the second grade, my dad was kind of an influential guy in Gardena, and Gardena at that time was known for having legal poker casinos. When nobody in California could play poker legally, the Gardena allowed them to have these 6 poker clubs. So the mayor, the wannabe mayor of Gardena, wanted to get an endorsement, and they decided that maybe it might be cool to get my little sister into the movie business, and maybe me as well. So we both went up to visit a photographer, and they took pictures of Michelle. And after he was done with her, she was the primary candidate. I just happened to be along for the ride, but he took a photo of me that wound up in his studio window that caught the eye of a director and a producer a few months later. And they tracked me down through my one and only agent I ever had was called Mary Grady. She had the first all-child agency in Hollywood. Her son was Don Grady, who was on My Three Sons as Robbie.
Right.
And her daughter, Lonnie, went on to do Eight Is Enough and a few other things. But I was like probably her first paying client. And she got me that part. I went for the interview and I got the job. And then during the 6 weeks of filming, I did this little movie with Eddie Albert and Jane Wyatt with my parents, and Soupy Sales and Brenda Lee. Soupy was the cop. Brenda Lee was my older sister. And one thing led to another. So I got really good experience in my first job. It was a movie. And during that 6 week experience, I picked up a commercial for Kellogg's that was really, I think it received a couple of awards. And then I also picked up General Hospital, which was the first year it was on. I was actually on the first episode, the first maybe 10 episodes ever. And one thing led to another. And then the Real McCoys came along, and then the Munsters came along.
Wow. You did a lot of other television shows like Bonanza, Adam 12, Shazam, The Untouchables, right? So many different shows. You know, the other day I was just watching Genie, and you were on Genie. That must have been great. Tell us about that.
That was I loved playing a brat. That was fun. And Larry Hagman was wonderful. Barbara Eden. I didn't really act. I wasn't in a scene with Barbara, although she was there, and she was so beautiful. And it was funny when I did the Mr. Eds. Connie Hines, who played the wife of Alan, Alan Young, Wilbur, and they were going to a costume party, and she was dressed as a harem girl. And it was like, oh my God, I was like, here I am, this young kid with these beautiful women all dressed all around me. I thought Connie Hines was just, wow, she was really good looking. Yeah. And the Munster Marylands and Yvonne DiCarlo were very attractive women too. So I was blessed to be around a bunch of hotties young in my youthful years.
Right. And you screen tested with Yvonne DiCarlo, right? When you got the Munsters.
Yes,
wow. That must have been pretty awesome.
Yeah, that was people say, how did you get the part? And a lot of things had to happen for that particular thing. Sometimes your life is you are right where you're supposed to be because of circumstances that were out of your control. And the Munsters was one of those. First of all, they wanted Bill Mumy, and Bill Mumy turned it down for makeup reasons, which was fine. I was living in Illinois with my grandmother at the time. Right after I finished The Real McCoys, I went with my grandma back to Illinois to stay with her in the 5th grade. And then they hired Happy Durman to do the pilot with a woman named Joan Marshall, who was playing the character Lily. Her character name was Phoebe before they switched it to Lily. And the network saw the pilot. They liked it, but they said, we need a couple things adjusted here before we give you the green light to go further. And one of them was to replace Eddie and bring in Yvonne DiCarlo as Lily Munster and have her not be so Morticia-like. Here you got 2 other actors were chosen, and they didn't do it. I was living in the Midwest. They flew me out for a screen test with Yvonne DiCarlo. My mom was living in the East Coast with my stepfather, the baseball player, so I didn't have a place to live. I moved in with my uncle, and they hired a woman to take me to work. So there was a lot of factors had to fall into place for this to happen. And here we are 57 years later chatting about it.
Yeah. And you were successful doing Eddie. I mean, you just played him as a regular little boy, and that worked.
I was very lucky in Hollywood because I never took any acting lessons, but for me, luckily, when I would read a script and go on an interview, about 90% of the time, it would be pretty much what they were looking for. So my instincts were pretty good. But the trick to being a good actor is when your instincts aren't good, you need to then tweak it for the director and make it what they want. And I was able to do that as well. So,
wow.
But I had a pretty good batting average. I got more than half of the interviews I went on. And I didn't go on a lot of interviews because I really spent I wasn't really an actor. I was a kid who stumbled into it. And I thought it would be great to occasionally do it to make money for a race car because I really wanted to be a race car driver. And had I lived closer to Hollywood and had I gone on more interviews, I probably would have done more work. But I did quite a bit of work in 15 years.
Absolutely.
Actually, it was 13 years.
Cool. I have our friend David Merlin wants to say hi. You know who David is.
Dave Merlin? Hey, Dave, how you doing, buddy?
And Mike Dupree wanted to know something too, but let me ask my question first. On the Munsters episodes, and I'm particularly picking one or the other, but the one with Zombo, Louis Nye. Yes. That was, to me, it was a great episode where you didn't like your dad, Herman at the time. And then, the whole thing did you guys get to choose the character actors into shows like Louis Nye, or did they just have them all pre-planned?
I just pretty much suited up and showed up for work, and Conley and Mosier. But let me clarify that. No, that particular episode, it wasn't that I didn't like my dad. I was just focused on television.
Right.
And Herman got jealous of the boob tube, the guy that came into his house and stole the affection of his little boy. And that's when I go, but Dad, remember, he comes up to talk to me, and I go, I want to be like my hero. And he goes, well, what do you mean your hero? He goes, they're big something good for nothings. I go, but my hero's you. But the funniest thing about that particular episode, which happens to be one of my top three, is number one, Louis Nye, Sonny Drysdale, very, very funny guy, great guy. But if you look at the end of this episode, he had the biggest credits of any guest star ever. I guess, when you're in Hollywood, a lot of times if you don't get the money you want, you get a bigger credit. So they had these like giant letters at the end for him. But it was a really good episode because it showed the fact that, me believing that the television guy was real and being very disenchanted when I found out that he wasn't who I thought he was. And the funniest line in the whole episode is when I go there and I go to my mom, I go, Mom, what's wrong? Zombo's house is like crummy. And I go to the producer, I go, isn't anything real around here? And the TV producer goes, Eddie, real? Nothing's real. It's television.
No, and that was so good. But his other question is, Mike Dupree wanted to know about Billy Mooney, and I know Billy Mooney was on one of your episodes as I forget his name, but he was one of the kids.
Come back, little Googie.
Googie, yeah. So did you ever work with him after that?
No, I never worked with Bill. Although we did it. We were both in a movie together. Although we didn't work together, we were in different parts. It was called A Child Is Waiting with Burt Lancaster and Judy Garland. And the day I was working, something happened. It was a street shot where it was outside of the main place with the location, and apparently he was on the same set, but I didn't work with him in a scene. But we're very good friends.
Yeah. Very, very cool.
Wow, that's awesome. Also, when you did General Hospital, you were known as One Take Eddie, right? I mean, you only did one take. Was that the same situation when you did the Munsters? You only like to do one take at a time?
My thoughts on this whole thing, because I wasn't really an actor. I was more just, all I wanted to do is do my job and go home. So I would be very prepared, and I very rarely blew it, which I think is one of the reasons the adults like working with me. I was kind of like adult-like, even though I was 11 years old. They called me a 39-year-old midget. Now today it would be a 39-year-old little person. Right. But back then you could say that. And they basically what I would do is I was so prepared that I just wanted to do it right so we could go home. That was the plan. The sooner we do this, the sooner we go home. So they called me One Take Patrick. Yeah, that was
One Take Patrick. So awesome. And you know what? Not many people know that the Munster series only really ran, for 2 years and 70 episodes. It seems like there's so much more, many more episodes because it's on all the time and you've seen so many episodes.
Yeah, we did 70 in 2 years, 39 the first year, 31 the second year. Normally they want 100 episodes to be a syndication package, but there are some exceptions. The Addams Family did, I think, 63 episodes. Honeymooners 39, but a lot of shows in the old days did under 100 episodes, like Star Trek. I think they did maybe 92 or something. So it's not carved in stone, but a lot of the old Gilligan's Island only was on 3 years. So it wasn't that you had to have these long runs because people were so used to it because, number one, there was no cable. There was usually 3 channels in a household.
Right.
The TV guide would come in the mail and everybody would grab at it and they would all make circles. It was like, what shows were we going to be watching? Everybody had like their own favorites. So a lot of times with only one TV set in the house back in the day, it was very much a who got there first and who could convince other people to watch what they wanted to watch. And it was like, sort of like a swap meet of things. But there was with only three channels and coming on at 7:30 on the coast and 6:30 Central, you had a huge audience and a big pie slice. There was no other distractions around. The weekends, maybe the movies and stuff, but during the weeknight, TV dinners, TV trays, family hour, movies, watch TV, talk, and then go entertain yourself with the television shows.
Wow. Now I heard like in between takes you would sometimes play ball with Al Lewis, right?
We would
catch and stuff.
When there was time, Al was a big sports fan. He liked the fact that my stepdad was a pro ball player. We would toss a frisbee. We would toss a baseball. He allowed me to be a kid. He was good. Fred was very good Fred taught me a lot about acting. Al taught me a lot about life outside the studio. So it was a really good balance. And And Yvonne DiCarlo was a great, my mom was living on the East Coast, so my TV family was actually, I was, sort of, I won't say that, I was closer, but I spent more time with them than I did with my own folks.
I know I'm going to get this question, so I'm going to ask you, what was your favorite episode? And not you. You mentioned something like that before. Tell us again, and I want to ask you, like, what was your favorite thing to do when you weren't on the set in Universal Studios? I know you used to run around there and check out the movies and the actors. Tell us about that.
Well, when you're a 12-year-old kid, and if you have a construction site on the street down the block, and one of the things you always want to do is go explore and climb around places you're not supposed to go. But imagine if you can get away with that at a movie studio, especially Universal Studios, because over the 2 years I was there, it was they had about 6 or 7 TV shows going, but they always had about 10 movies in production at various stages. That's what I used to get a kick out of. Was my favorite thing to do was to walk by a soundstage after they had cleared out the last movie, and then they start building it up again and kind of try to figure out whether it's going to be a period piece or whether it's going to be a Western or it's going to be a thriller, and just kind of watch the guys do their craft and will be able to walk on and poke around, because obviously I'm in makeup, so they know I'm supposed to be there. And I used to just love to go exploring. That was my big thing to do. And on Wednesdays, I always went to George Barris's shop. And then after that, I would go to my hobby shop to pick up some slot car track and whatever I needed for my slot car setup. And it was a great time.
So awesome. Go ahead, Dr.
On Car 54, Al Lewis and Fred Gwynn actually got their character set up. Chemistry they had. Did the producers, and I always wanted to know this, did the producers know that and then brought them together on the set for the Munsters?
Well, when you ask me firsthand, when you're an 11-year-old kid, these decisions are made, in the offices. And I don't know. I would assume they saw the chemistry, and I would assume because they were both New York actors that they wanted each other to come out and do the part. I can't imagine that Joey Ross would have been good. So I guess Schnauzer, which was Al's character in Sergeant Schnauzer, and Fred and Al were good friends, and they were a good comedy team. So I'm guessing that they probably came as a package deal.
Yeah, because there's another thing too, and as I watched the shows, I seen the guy that did the Fregosi Curse as one of their, and that. Can you tell us a little bit about that one?
Well, it was just one of the better episodes, and they always had a good time. And I can't remember, there's so many guest stars that particular is his name. I can't think of his name at the moment, although I do remember Don Rickles and Frank Gorshin and Harvey Korman, and we had a really good laundry list of A-lister people in there early in their career. Paul Lynn, Dr.
Paul Lynn, yeah.
But what we did is, we had these great scripts, and one of the things with Fred and Al coming out as friends and then playing father-in-law, son-in-law, it was a very believable family. The family unit, even though they were monsters, they lived in that house, it immediately became believable, and they were caring about each other. And yes, he looked like Frankenstein, but you never once thought of him as anything but lovable Herman Munster. He went to work, Lily cleaning the house. We had the student Marilyn going to college. We had Eddie with his problems at school, blending in. It was an immediately normal fabric of a typical American family, and they even played that into it often when there would be a storyline regarding them winning a contest. The magazine would come out and they would take a picture of us, and they made it like the average American family at Halloween. They always made it work. So that was basically one of the things about the show, was it just became a very believable, fun, fantasy type, non-reality based show, which in the 60s, there were a lot of very successful shows that had no basis in reality. You had I did My Favorite Martian. I did 2 Mr. Eds. I did an I Dream of Jeannie. Let me turn this around here. I did an I Dream of Jeannie. So people loved Bewitched, Genies, Witches, Martians, Talking Cars, not so much, but it was a show.
Wow.
And the Munsters fit into that, and the Munsters was right in the middle of that pop culture phenomenon.
Wow, nice.
Now, Pat Priest, who played Marilyn on the show, was actually the second Marilyn, and the first one being Beverly Owen. I know you had a great relationship with Beverly. Did you have the same chemistry with Pat Priest when she started doing the role that you did?
We were friends. You still got to remember something. I'm an 11-year-old kid, and I had a crush on Beverly. I thought she was just a wonderful person, and I had a crush on my 5th grade teacher too, Miss Juliana. But I guess I liked older women. But I loved Bev. She was so sweet, and I really liked the way that Munsters was scripted. With her original 13 episodes were a little different than the other 57, because when she left the show, it shifted gears a little bit. Because if you remember, you watched the first 13 were very much about Marilyn and her looking for love and trying to find a beau. And the guys would bring her home, and they would see the family, and they would run away. And it was all about, oh, poor Marilyn, we're never gonna find love. But she also looked upon the family as normal. She, it was not anything to do with their weirdness. It was all about, she was like blind to the, she was totally oblivious to the outside shell. It was just family. But when she left the show, it seemed to shift gears a little bit to where it became less about Marilyn being the focal point and the front figure and Marilyn and her family. It became more about the family and Marilyn secondary. So they started to do a lot more shows with me volunteering Herman to do this and do that, and Grandpa and Herman would get into mischief, and the boys were in the dungeon getting up in trouble, and the girls were at the beauty shop or in the kitchen. So it became a little different than the original 13, where it was more about Marilyn in the forefront and the family behind them, in my opinion.
Now, when Lily was cooking in the kitchen, I heard it was always oatmeal, right?
Yeah. Well, we unless we had a four-legged turkey or a fire-breathing dragon or a big mouth bass that would speak to you. So yeah.
Now, also, Grandpa had that restaurant in Greenwich Village. I actually met him there. Did you actually go there and dine in the restaurant?
Yeah, I was there for the grand opening, and whenever I was in New York, I would try to make it down. I used to love being able to walk into the kitchen, and Reno, really great chef he had and a good staff, and go in and kind of poke around and nibble on stuff, and it was kind of like the Goodfellas going in the back, kitchen and stuff. And it's funny when I mentioned Goodfellas, because who owned Grandpa's restaurant was John Gotti.
I know, he had mob connections going there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I used to call up and I asked for Al and Mikey and Tony. Hey, Butch, Al don't remember so good. You want something done, you need a table. He asked for Tony, he asked for Mikey. Yeah.
I had a question from a listener. They want to know, do you still have Woof Woof? The original?
Yes.
Awesome.
The original fell apart. I had an original, and it was given to me when I was doing Ironside about 6 years after the Munsters. I brought him home. Unfortunately, I didn't take very good care of him. He fell apart. And then I sold him to someone who made a replica. Okay. Made a replica of him. And now I have two replicas, son of Woof Woof and nephew of Woof Woof.
What about the original Eddie Munster costume?
Somewhere in Indiana at an undisclosed museum, private museum.
Oh, okay.
Really? Wow. Go ahead, Doc.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you more about Sid and Marty Krofft. You did H&R Puffs and stuff, and you did Lidsville.
Mm-hmm.
Can we talk a little bit about that? Can you give us some information?
Sure, absolutely.
What was that like to do that?
Well, Lidsville, it was the kookiest. It was the kickiest. It was the living in. And if you never go there, you'll be glad you did. You know why? Because everybody that goes to Lidsville really flips their lid.
What was H&R Puff and stuff like?
I tell you, I was in high school up in Hollywood, going to this place called Hollywood Professional, and it was sort of a specialty school for people that were in the business, because public schools didn't like you coming and going. So I went to school with the Cowsills and a few other kid actors, and Peggy Fleming had graduated right before me. But what happened is I went up for this interview to go see Sid and Marty Krofft. I had never seen Puff and Stuff. I had never seen the Bugaloos. I was, my mornings were usually Saturday mornings were not really awake until like 10 or 11, because I had been up the night before having a good time, or I was going surfing or whatever. So the point is, I didn't know anything about the Krofft camp. So I went out and saw them, and I turned them down. I said, no, thank you. I'm not interested. It's kind of a kiddie show. And the 2 years prior, I had just done a movie in Brazil, and I was supposed to be up for an Academy Award. Everything was great and wonderful. And then the movie, unfortunately, they had a very bitter Hollywood divorce, and the movie got shelved. Never going to see the light of day. And I was kind of disappointed, because I was really looking forward to getting out of TV and maybe going into movies. But on top of that, this Saturday morning TV show comes my way, and I thought, movie star, Saturday morning. I'm not really, it's not in the cards. So I said, no, thank you. Thanks, but no thanks. And then he calls me about a week later and calls my mom and convinces her. And then she tries to convince me. And then my agent. But what convinced me was the Cowsills at Hollywood Professional School. I told them what was going on. And they go, you never turn down money. You never turn down a part. What's wrong with you? And I said, well, yeah, but it's a Saturday morning. They go, what do you care? All your friends will be asleep. I go, well, that's true. So I went down. I met Sid. Sid took me out in his yellow Corvette. We went up to Sunset Boulevard. We had lunch. He convinced me to do it. And I said, okay, it's 11 weeks work. But I saw a picture of Caroline Ellis from the Bugaloos. I looked over at her at the studio and I go, is she ever around? And he goes, you never know. I go, okay, I'll do it.
She was a good looker back then.
I
Yeah.
never did meet Caroline. We're friends on Facebook. She lives in Europe. Sweet girl.
Oh.
But that was the combination of the 11 weeks work through summer, the Cowsill saying never turn down work, and the possibility of meeting Caroline. I wound up doing Lidsville for 11 weeks with Billy Hayes, as you know, and Charles Nelson Riley.
Yeah, and it was an amazing show. It was a crazy show, but it was an amazing show. So.
Yeah, it was definitely an experience. My summer of '71, I turned 18 years old doing that show, and it was a crazy time.
Awesome.
You also did some work for Disney, and you met Walt Disney, right?
I did a Disney World of Color, not as a scripted actor. I was more of the in the early days of the World of Color. They would have like an opening from Main Street USA, and he would be out amongst the fans. But my basic thing was the parade was going by, and he was like, "Hey, little Billy, what do you think of the parade?" "Oh, I think it's great, Mr. Disney. Thank you." And then it turned out I went on to work at Disney Studios for a couple of years later on. But at that particular time, I was just a uncredited 7-year-old kid who was used as I had a speaking part. It wasn't totally silent, but it was not listed in the credits. But I did get to meet Walt Disney, which was a big to do for me.
Wow. And you almost had a shot to do American Graffiti, right?
Yeah.
Oh, did you? Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh, I did. I didn't let it get very far. George Lucas was not a well-known director at the time, and nobody knew who he was. I didn't know who he was, which was everybody. He was George Lucas, unknown director at the time. But he came down to Hermosa Beach, and I had very, very long hair, and I think I just gotten out of the ocean, and comes up to me and basically says, I'm thinking about, I got this movie script, and I have a part for you. I think you'd be perfect for, and but you're gonna have to cut your hair. I go, that ain't gonna happen. Oh, shush. That ain't gonna happen. So, does that bother you?
Not at all.
No, we're good. We're good.
We're good.
Okay. So anyway, he basically tells me about this little 1962, his life in Modesto, California, period piece, but everybody's got to have hair of the 1962 period, and white walls is gonna happen. And I basically said, no, thank you. Good luck with your movie. And about a year and a half later, I'm up in Sacramento going to the movies, and I see American Graffiti. I go, I've heard of that before, American Graffiti. And then I see George Lucas. I go, oh my. And I went and saw it. And I went to myself, I go, wow. Everybody in the movie. And my part that he was thinking about was the best part of the movie. It was Richard Dreyfuss's part.
Oh, Jesus, no.
It was a really big mistake. But something, everybody in Hollywood has those kind of stories. It's very common. But it was pretty funny to see it later and go, that's pretty bad.
I wanted to ask you about the Munster movie, the colorized movie, Munster Go Home. Tell us about that.
Yeah.
Well, we were going into a third season possibility. Batman had come on the air. The transition from black and white to color was an issue for all the networks and all the shows. And they wanted to go Munsters to color because we felt that we'd been in this making for 2 years, and it would probably be a big boost to our ratings. Although Batman was doing a lot of damage to us, we had been in our slot. They threw 3 shows at us over 2 years, and we beat each show they threw at us. But when Batman came in, it killed us. It really did, and a lot of it had to do with the color. So as I understand it, the decision was made since nobody wanted to pay for the color episodes. The network didn't want to, and Connelly and Mosier didn't want to. They decided to make a color movie instead. And the idea was, let's do the movie. It'll be 6-8 weeks of work. I think it was about 6 weeks of work, maybe. And we'll go release the movie worldwide so everybody in the world knows what the Munsters are, and then we can follow the movie up with the series and sell syndication packaging. So that was sort of like, and I think a lot of it had to do with middle ground. The middle ground was Fred and Al were New Yorkers who were tired of living in LA. The scripts were getting a little thin, and I think it was just time for everybody just was ready to let it go.
Yeah.
Great movie. You know, we had another great guest star. John Carradine as Mr. Gateman came in the movie as Crookshank, our butler. And we had, we had Hermione Gingold, Terry Thomas. Oh my God. Terry Thomas was hilarious. I remember seeing him in It's a Mad, 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 Mad World.
Yeah,
and,
he's fun.
I was so excited to work with him.
How long did it actually take to do the makeup for Eddie?
I was about an hour a day. Not bad.
No, not too bad at all.
The touch-ups drove me crazy all through the day. That was like more annoying than the actual hour in the chair in the morning, because, you know, for an hour I got to hang out with Mike Westmore and, you know, just chat and see what was going on and see the other people all coming through. It wasn't uncommon to sit in the chair and look in the mirror and see like Bobby Darin and Sandra Dee walk by, or you know, I mean, it was like movie star central.
Do you ever run into Elvis on the set?
Never ran into Elvis, although the Beatles came on the set and I didn't run into them either. I was awful.
Oh, jeez. I have a question for you, Eddie, about the flying car, the flying bike that you got.
Pedal car.
A pedal car. But it wasn't supposed to fly, and they used a chain or some type of wire?
Yeah, wire.
Because everybody wanted to know if it really flied. And I'm like, I don't know. I'll ask them.
They need to take a physics class.
Yeah.
The special effects, although they were very primitive by today's standards, we had really good guys doing every episode. We had one thing, we would speed up the film in every episode. Then there would also be a breakaway something, whether it would be stuff coming down from the ceiling, or Herman walking through a door, or there was always special effects of some sort every episode. Igor the Bat, Spot under the stairs, you know, smoke pots, constantly smoke, cobwebs, dressing the set. There was a lot going on there, but luckily Universal, the monster studio in the 30s and 40s and 50s, really knew how to make the black and white genre and the shadowing and the camera angles. It was like, to me, it was reminiscent of the Twilight Zone, the style of work and stuff, and it really worked well. And I honestly think, even though Munster Go Home was in color, I prefer the episodes in black and white. I think the black and white genre works for them, and I've always been a big fan of certain movies that need to be in, you know, Raging Bull, Paper Moon. There's a lot of black and white movies that it's just the way that it should be seen.
I have two questions for you. One is when you did some of the shows, you know, and you said that some of your favorite episodes, I understand that. But when you did some of the shows, did anything leave you with something in your mind that go, oh my God, that show, even though it's not my favorite, is still something there in that show that I like?
Oh yeah, usually, and I'll tell you how that worked is once you did the first few episodes, and you kind of feel for everybody's, you know, you could read it on paper on the script form on Monday morning, and then you could know how it's going to basically be filmed and conveyed, you know, the outcome will be. That happened a lot where I would be watching and looking. First of all, I would always be looking for the Munster coach to be used, because those were my favorite scenes, because we were outside.
Right.
Got to see the light of day. And number two, usually if I'm in the scene, I'm sitting in the back seat up on the coachman's seat, and I'm in the coolest car on the coolest show. And it was a perk, you know, it was cool for a kid. So I would look for that. But yeah, when I would see certain scenes, I would dial. I mean, I'll give you an example. Dr. Dudley, when I grew a beard, with Eddie's nickname.
Yeah.
I saw that scene where I'm sitting he carts me off to go see the doctor, and I'm sitting there with a paper bag over my head with his beard sticking out, and I could see Paul Lynde taking the tranquilizers, peeking through the hole, freaking out that if Herman isn't bad enough, can you imagine what his kid must look like if they have to cover his head with that paper bag? Oh my God. I could see that happening. I go, this is going to be hilarious. This is going to be funny. And those are the type of things like with Herman the rookie, when he went to play baseball, my stepfather got to play the catcher. I knew that Fred was very agile in those shoes, you know, those big shoes. And I could see that this is going to be funny. And there were some classic scenes, man. There's one comes to mind where Herman wants to be a detective, and he's basically, he was a great artist, and he's drawing on a chalkboard, and Al, Grandpa, is looking up at him, and he goes, "It says this guy's got a lantern jaw," so he draws a lantern jaw, and Al looks up at him, and Herman goes, "What?" He goes, "Nothing." And he goes, and he does it again, and he goes, "What?" He goes, "Nothing." And then finally he goes, "Herman, you've drawn yourself." But that routine with the back and forth, I could sense that this is going to be a classic comedy Abbott and Costello moment, or Laurel and Hardy type stuff. It was really good.
Right. Right.
Was it
And one other question, real quick, about the redos with John Shuck and everything. What is your take on them? I really never liked them, but I gave them a chance. There's been a lot of them.
It's a compliment to the original. It's a business. We're about making money. The Munsters is a very strong fan base. A lot of kids have never seen the black and white. A lot of people, they figured it would be in color. John's a great guy. I'm friends with Lee Merriweather and also God, he's gonna kill me. Jason, the kid that played Eddie, is Jason Marsden, is a great kid, and so I'm friends with all of them. And
right.
The deal is, they try to go to the well. They do it with the Munsters. They've done it with other shows, and it basically, the biggest Munster collector who passed away a couple of years ago, Kevin Burns, who told me, look at it this way, Butch, the Munsters today it makes you guys look like Gone with the Wind. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah, that's true.
The good news is they've done several movies. The Addams Family did well too with Broadway and feature films. But Rob Zombie, as you may or may not know, is doing the new Munsters movie. 20 years he was chasing the licensing, and I've seen some of the sketches and I've seen some of the stuff, and I'm really excited about it because I really believe that he's going to capture a very unique new look of an old property with a modern point of view that's going to work. I think it's going to be great.
I hope you're going to have a cameo in it.
Yeah, that's what we were saying.
Yeah, I can't talk about that.
Got to go see the movie to see. Yeah, go ahead.
I can't mention it.
I wanted to ask you, when you were shooting the show, it must have been a tough schedule for you between shooting the show and going to school, right? I mean, they pulled you out of school to do a lot of these scenes and stuff, right?
Well, yeah, every kid in Hollywood until they're out of school, 18 years old, 3 hours a day. They try to get as much of it out of the way early if they can, because one of the things that added an extra hour was makeup. So you only have a 9-hour window with a kid, no matter what. Mm-hmm. You take an hour of that away with makeup. Then you take another hour away with lunch. Then you take another hour away with recreational. You get an hour off to go explore. So right there, you got 3 hours out of the day gone. Then you got 3 hours of school. So that's 6 hours out of the day, out of a 9-hour day. So whenever you would see an episode that featured Eddie a lot, it was shot in the summertime because they got the 3 hours back to put you back in front of the camera, which then gave them 5 hours of screen time as opposed to just 2.
Awesome. I have another question from a listener. They wanted to know, is it true that you dated Wednesday from the Addams Family, Lisa Loring?
We were dear friends, and we went on a couple junkets together, and we I wouldn't say we were dating, but we definitely traveled around together, and dear friend, wonderful person, and I gotta do something about it. Next time I do one of these, put the dog in the closet.
No, he's great.
But yes, Lisa and I are dear friends. I wouldn't put the word that we were dating. No.
Okay. And also you recently got married, so I want to congratulate you on that as well, right?
Well, you need to do your research because I recently got divorced, and you can be even happier about that.
Wow. So I didn't read about that part of it. Wow.
Quick, right?
Wow.
It makes for fun. It's very weird that in the modern day technology, once something goes into print, it is almost impossible to remove it.
Wow.
And that's one of the things that I have attempted to wipe off off of my Wikipedia or IMDb. Wow. But unfortunately, it's more difficult than I had anticipated. But anyway, no, I got divorced last year and a half ago, happily divorced, parted ways amicably, no big deal. And
Wow.
I had never been married. I got married for the first time at 63 with someone I'd only known 6 months. So
Oh, wow.
that was shame on me. I rushed into it.
Well, also you worked with Evil Knievel and Jimmy J.J. Walker in a commercial.
Evil.
What was Evil like?
Evil. When people ask me who's the coolest people you ever met in your life, Evil Knievel. No, I mean, I like meeting Walt, but I met him as a kid. Evil and I became buddies as an adult, and I mean, it was funny. The first time I met him, we were riding from somewhere to somewhere in the limousine. We were going somewhere, and he was a big drinker, and I was drinking back then. Where are these pictures coming from?
Oh, Doc is putting them up right now.
Oh, okay, all right. So there you go. So Evil and he's sitting in the limo, and the first thing I did, I go, "Okay, buddy, you know it's coming. Tell me about Snake River. What the hell happened?" And he proceeded to tell me exactly how it went down, and he thought he was going to die that day, and this and that, and this and that. And he lived in Florida, and I lived in Florida, and we started hanging around together. I'd see him about once a month, and what a great guy! What a showman! I mean, to this day, I think he's the greatest showman on earth. Man, I mean, can you put 100,000 people into a stadium and keep them there and keep them mesmerized for hours waiting for one jump?
Amazing. So he really wild and crazy?
Yeah, he was a great guy.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, he was a real classy guy, though. He was classy. I liked him a lot. I really, really enjoyed his company. I never had the pleasure of meeting Muhammad Ali, but I would imagine the presence that this guy carried with him when he walked into a room was so amazing that it's probably something similar to that.
Mm-hmm. And you had a little bit of a musical career, right? You toured with Sugarloaf?
No. Sugarloaf was signed to a record label called Claridge Music. And when I did, that's a great picture there because that's me and Fish and Klinger.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I see that. Yeah.
This is the PLJ Celebrity Cruise.
Yeah,
I don't know if you remember doing that.
Yeah,
right.
And the show, they also had the kid that played the banjo in Deliverance, but he's not there.
Yeah, you have also Klinger from MASH right at the end there, and I'm standing right next to you there.
Yeah, he's right here.
Where are you? Is that
I'm
you?
right there in
There you
the
are.
yep.
Okay.
So that was a great time. We used to have a great time with those cruises.
Hold on a second.
So give me attention.
So everybody's enjoying the show so far. I know I am. It's really, really awesome. I forgot the pictures, Jimmy, because I was enjoying the show so much. I came right back and started asking the questions. Now the pictures are done. We can get back to the show.
We were talking about pictures with the
PLJ Celebrity Cruise. Yeah.
So continue. I'm sorry.
No. I was talking about your musical career, and I know didn't you do American Bandstand with? Tell us about that whole thing.
Oh, the music career. Well, what happened was after Lidsville came out,
right.
My mom, who was working at the agency, got a call from a record people that were looking for Gary Grimes. Gary Grimes was another actor who Mary represented, who had just finished the Summer of 42.
Right.
And my mom said, she kind of like mentioned my name to them as well. And they decided that they would rather talk to me because of the Lidsville thing. And what they were looking to do, they were looking to replace Bobby Sherman, who had left Metro Media Records.
Oh, okay.
They needed a teeny bop star.
Right.
So I was 18, reasonably good looking, long hair, had a career going, and they decided that they were going to create a David Cassidy type bubblegum star, and I was the lucky recipient of their attention. So what they did is I went into the studio. I don't sing. I was the original Munster Manili. I told them that. They go, it doesn't matter. Went into the studio, and the band that they were managing was Sugarloaf. And and so we went in. Jerry Corbetta played keyboards, and it was funny that everybody else in the band was named Bob. There was Jerry and 4 Bobs. So we recorded a couple songs, and then they got Metro Media Records to sign us. The first thing I did was American Bandstand with Loggins and Messina.
Right.
I didn't sing. I lip synced. I had the flu that day. I felt horrible, but I got through it. We went on tour, and the bottom line was we spent a whole bunch of Metro Media's money. I didn't do it. I didn't have the checkbook, but their representative, an A&R guy, artist and repertoire. So he used me to go on a party of major proportions. So at the end of the year, Metro Media got out of the record business. So jokingly, I say I put a major corporation out of the record business. But boy, the stories we had, and I recommend everybody should be a bubblegum rock star for at least a year of their life, and the memories are still there.
Wow! So you were the first Milli Vanilli right there.
Well, now, that was 1972. Now, what happened was in 1981, when MTV was just an infant, we decided that we wanted to do rock videos. And a friend of mine, a friend of a friend, knew a guy that had a studio, and we recorded Whatever Happened to Eddie. And that was, we were the first unsigned act ever to be on MTV back when payola was all problematic within the music industry, that everybody had to pay for play. We got on Super Bowl Sunday. We had Whatever Happened to Eddie, our first rock video, and we did that again. But this time, I did write the lyrics, but I faked the bass and I faked singing.
Wow!
double Milli Vanilli.
Double Milli Vanilli. I just want to say, though, I have to make a comment because I interviewed Frank Jekyll from the 5-Man Electrical Band, and he went through the same thing as a one-hit wonder with Signs. He said, unbelievable. Every time that he tried to get music out there, no more. That's it.
Yeah. The funny part about it is we never performed. It got me in touch with Al Lewis, though, because I was on the East Coast and Al was on the West Coast. I was on the East Coast doing this something, and Al had to introduce the band at the Palladium. And after we did that, we connected. And the funny part about it, excuse me, the funny part about it is I still to this day have people for being in a one hit. It wasn't really a hit. It was a novelty song. Dr. Demento, he broke it. Whatever Happened to Eddie, the Kid from Mockingbird Lane. We did this video in one night, $3,500, 3 locations. I borrowed John Travolta's Firebird from George Barris. It was a great little video. It was really a well done little project. I'm very proud of it. But we never played, but I have people come up and say, "Oh man, I saw you guys open for so-and-so. You were awesome." So I don't even correct them anymore. I just go, "Thank you."
Just thank you. Thank you, and move on.
I get people coming, "Are you still doing the music?" No. It's amazing. It's funny that people still remember it.
Wow. You owned a lot of cool cars over the years. Do you have any favorites that you can share with us?
I turned 16. I had a new Mach 1. The day I turned 16 was probably my favorite because I was 16 and it was a very cool car. But when I got rid of that, I upped it to a 427, a really built 427 Corvette that was never got beaten that one. In fact, when I got beaten my Mustang, a Corvette beat me, and that's kind of caused me to go buy a Corvette. But I wasn't going to buy any Corvette. I bought a 427, 435 horse, 411 factory 4-speed, but it had already been built. And back then, GM, the Detroit wasn't giving true horsepower readings because the insurance companies. So it probably had when I got to it, it probably had about 600 horse.
Wow.
It got 4 miles per gallon. And when gasoline went to 70, when gasoline spiked to 70 cents a gallon, it used to be 35 cents a gallon. I sold it because it was like really expensive. And now look at gas.
Yeah, amazing, right?
You know how much that car would have been worth?
Out here.
Oh, forget it. Well, you also lived in a special house with your grandma, right? And then later you bought the house and had some special activities going on there. Tell us about that house.
Well, during the Munsters, I left Illinois to go do the Munsters for 2 years. And during that time, my grandmother, who was a big antique collector, and I traveled extensively. I really kind of have her to thank for my love of Americana and the road and, visiting people in small towns. She had moved to Macon, Missouri, bought this big 1875 Queen Anne home. It happened to be haunted. My sister was familiar with the ghost. Grandma was familiar with the ghost. The whole town knew about it. I never saw the ghost, but I did wind up buying the house about 6 years ago to save it from being destroyed. And at the time, I had my Munster coach and my Dragula and my trailer, and I thought, well, living in Missouri won't be such a bad thing geographically, center of the country, good for business. But and then the ex-wife and I moved into the house, and I spent a lot of time staying in hotels because she wouldn't stay in the house because of the ghost. So it's like, why do I own a house when I'm staying in a hotel every night? So we wound up selling the house to someone that's doing a really nice restoration on it. But I put a roof on it, and I put new HVAC, and I put new electrical and plumbing and all that kind of stuff to make it livable.
Wow.
But it was really an interesting house, and I just got back from Cape May with the ghost hunters, who they really want to go to that house, and I contacted the owners, and They won't have they don't want anything to do with it.
Oh wow.
I didn't mention I was an absentee seller, so I don't know whether or not they knew it was haunted or not. It wasn't my job. The realtor dealt with it.
Did you actually meet the Standells when they did a show for you guys?
Sure.
What was that like? What were they like, the Beatles type of thing, right? At that time?
Well, they weren't quite the Beatles, but they were similar. A lot of the bands had the Nehru jackets and the Beatle boots, and and Tony had the long hair. And I actually I'm still friends with. Well, I was friends with Dickie Dodd, the drummer, but I'm still friends with Larry Tamblyn, who was the head of the group, and his brother was Russ Tamblyn, who was in West Side Story, an actor. Right. But it was great. I mean, they were the Standells, and this was before they were actually famous. The funny part about it was that they sang a Beatles song, and then they sang this other song, "Do the Ringo."
Yeah.
I guess that they were trying to. I don't know whether that was their choice or whether the producers had them do Beatles songs because of the obvious nature of the Beatles being so popular.
So back to singing. Did Fred Gwynne really, when he sang that Toe Bones song, did he really sing that? Is that his voice?
Yeah, Fred could sing and play guitar. He was a real Renaissance guy. He did children's books. He illustrated stuff. Very talented dude. Between the two of them, Al was sports. Fred and Al took me to my first hockey game. I remember that. We didn't have a pro team back then. We had a minor league team called the LA Blades. Mm-hmm. And the funny thing about it was after the second period, I get up and leave. And I'm wondering why nobody else is leaving. Like, isn't it over? Oh, no, but there's 3 periods in hockey. I go, that's pretty stupid.
Well, Butch, we're almost out of time, but we want to promote what you're doing. So you're going to be where and when?
You have it. Let's see.
Yeah, well, you know what? I have it right here. I can read it for you.
I'm going to be at the American Dream Mall. Hold on a second. I will pull it up.
So this way everybody knows that you're coming to New Jersey.
2 to 6 on Saturday and 4 to 8 on Friday.
Okay.
And I'll be with the #1 Dragula. And I want to mention one thing that I'm working right now. Hopefully, there's a wonderful amusement park in Indiana called Indiana Beach. And I went in there for Halloween on October and fell in love with the place. And it used to be very popular on the circuit, big band circuit. They had a ballroom and it's been open 97 years. So I'm hoping, and I think I'm going to wind up doing a lot of work on that property, bringing in other celebrities, promotions, marketing, car shows, concerts, and they're building a new roller coaster. They're assembling it, and hopefully they're going to brand it with something to do with the Munsters, and I'll have my cars on display beneath it. And it's right above Indianapolis, between Detroit, Chicago, and Indianapolis, called Indiana Beach on Lake Schaefer.
Oh,
hopefully, if you're into amusement parks like the way it used to be, not the big corporate where it bleeds you dry. This is a great place for $40 for adults and $20 for kids. You can come in and spend all day long.
Butch, I want to ask you, can you do a sweeper for the show before you go?
I don't have a broom handy.
No. Basically, just say who you are and where you're from. Of course, the Munsters. And you're listening to the Jimmy Deal Show on Hamilton Radio.
Sure. I'm Butch Patrick, and you're listening to the Jimmy Deal Show on Hamilton Radio. That's right. Eddie Munster is listening to the Jimmy Deal Show, and you should be too. Or maybe you are.
Thank you so much, Butch. I really appreciate it. And we're looking forward to seeing you also at Pandora's on Sunday, right?
Absolutely.
And you're going to be there 11 to 2, and that's in Sussex County again, Lafayette, New Jersey. And I hope everybody gets out to see you there as well. And also, I just wanted to go over the times again, because you had told me that Friday and Saturday at the Dream Mall. Friday, You had said that it was going to be actually Saturday was 2 to 6.
Yep, 4 to 8 on Friday.
And 4 to 8 on Friday. Okay, so I just want to make sure we got those times right so people can come out and see you.
Dragula. I'm bringing a whole bunch of die-cast Dragula cars. It's going to be photo ops, professional photo ops with the Dragula. So it's going to be great. And I understand this mall is really cool. So I'm looking forward to it. Yeah,
so we're looking forward to seeing you in town. So everybody's so excited about that.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you. We'll see you on the weekend.
Okay.
Thank you. Enjoy.
Let me go kill that dog. No, I'm kidding.
I know you are.
I love dogs.
I know you do. Take care.
Take care, Butch. Thanks again. I appreciate it.
Wow, another great show, Jimmy. Oh man.
Wow.
So I was so happy with him. I mean, we asked him almost everything.
It's amazing, man. It really is.
Yes.
Pretty wild. Also, we got so many more people coming up. I believe on Monday we have Richard Bay's going to be on the show, so we're looking forward to that. Richard Bay.
You remember Richard Bay?
Yeah, people are talking,
Richard
and
Bay
the
show.
Richard Bay Show. Yep. So excited about that. Then also we have American Idol Crystal Bowersox is going to be here. TV star actress Audrey Landers from Dallas is going to stop by. American Idol with Chloe Chanel, great singer. She's going to be here. Also Memphis DJ Rob Grayson, and he's also a program director from down in Memphis. A lot of great stories about Memphis music. He's going to be here also. Maggie Brosh, she's a country star. She'll stop by. We have so many great people on the way. Mr. Music, Norman Knight. I don't know if you remember him. He used to be on WCBS FM back in the day. Him. Yeah, I mean, he's written so many books. He's a friend of mine. He's going to stop by. A lot of great people on the way. So we're looking forward to that. We'll keep you updated on all these great people, including Nikki Stringfield, who is from Iron Maiden. She's a fantastic guitarist. I'm looking forward to talking with her, and recording artist Angelo Venuto, an Italian recording artist. This guy is unbelievable. He's great. Lucas Prada, a dance music artist, and Deborah Allen, a country star, is going to stop by. We just have so many people on the way, and we'll keep you all updated on that.
And you're booked up to May, you said.
I'm sorry?
You're booked up to May.
And also, yeah, next week after Richard Bay, I believe on Thursday, did I say Wednesday or Thursday? I'll keep you updated. I'll give you more information about this on Monday. In fact, Wesley Walker from the New York Jets is going to be here. So
yeah,
that's going to be a real fun show. He's a real good friend of mine. He's got a lot of great stories, and he's definitely a New York Jets great. So looking forward to that. And I also promised somebody I would just mention this real quick before we get out of here. If you're free this Saturday night, check out a great event going on at the Skyview Lounge in Saddlebrook, New Jersey. It's at 50 Kenny Place. A really beautiful club and hotel. It starts at 9 p.m. at the Crown Plaza Hotel. Special guests are going to be there, like Hanson, who sang Hungry for Your Love, dance music artist Nocera, Summertime, Sergio, In and Out of Love. My friend DJ Timmy D is DJing. VIP tickets are available, meet and greets, and you can call Donna at 973-449-4996. Okay, again, that number is 973-449. It's 4896 actually. So 4896. So check that out. It's a great thing to do this weekend on Valentine's weekend if you have nothing to do, and make sure you go out and check out Butch Patrick on location. He's in Rutherford, and then he's out in Lafayette on Sunday. So great great appearances by him.
Right, and thanks everybody that came in. David Merlin, Eddie's friend, Butch Patrick's friend, and Dave's a friend of ours. Mike Dupree. Other great guys, Prince Fleet Easton, Tom Payton, the people that I see, Chuck Walton, Flora.
Yeah, Flora, thanks. And also Cindy, Lake Ronkonkoma. My mom was out there. So many people every week. Thank you so much for listening to us. We really appreciate it. And Prince, I appreciate it every week he's been listening to us. So it's pretty cool.
Prince is like all I said, all these people are so supportive. So I want to make sure that we give them a good shout out, tell them thank you. And hopefully we'll talk to all of them soon. I know Prince, we're working on an interview with Prince very soon. I don't know when it's going to be. It's convenient to him when he can do it, and convenient to us.
Absolutely. We'll get it working out.
We'll get it all worked out. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night. And don't forget, on YouTube now, you can check out the Jack Jones interview and Lena Prima. I just put them up there on the thing. If you want the links, I can send you the links. You can go watch the shows for ourselves. And that's it. Thank you, guys. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, guys. Have a great night.
Thank you. See you next week.